Deconverted Man here, and I've got Harvey Webb from Australia. He's not from Australia, but I don't care anymore. Harvey, welcome to the channel.
It's good to be here, man. I'm excited, and it's my first ever stream, so I'm just hoping that we can have an interesting conversation about all the things we talked about in the videos.
And Harvey's, by the way, for anyone wondering, Harvey's internet connection is not great. So if something happens, we're going to blame Australia. I don't know why I decided that was going to be a thing. That's completely on me. It's silly and pointless, like many things I do, but not pointless or silly as our conversation. I'm just trying to keep the mood light because he came onto the internet. And Harvey, put up a video of why you believe in God, and I don't know if you were looking for a response or not, but here comes this pesky atheist out of nowhere to just say all these things and spend an hour. Oh my God, who would do that? An hour, talking about how this is wrong and that's wrong, and what do you're a young man, and you're like, I don't know if you expected that or wanted that or whatever, but that's what happened. So let me know what your thoughts were about that initial sort of, oh my goodness, what have I done moment, or how you perceived that.
I was honestly quite happy. Like I showed some of my family members and some of my friends, and they were like, I'm actually starting to get some traction in my videos. So people are responding, and I found it quite interesting that people were going to respond to my content, and I enjoyed that. But also, I think I found it interesting hearing other viewpoints of it, because it's always good to hear lots of different viewpoints of your opinions, right? So I'm saying what I think is correct in my video, and then you're doing a video responding to that and saying that I'm wrong. And it's interesting because now we're having this debate here, and we're going to actually do it live and say what we believe live. And just hopefully we can just maybe settle some points that we had in the two videos. I think I did a reaction video to your reaction video, and then you did a reaction stream to that.
Yeah, and I love that. That's how it used to be on YouTube, where we didn't have StreamYards back in my day. We had to walk uphill to get to YouTube, both ways in the snow, and it was just a different time back then. You youngsters back in my day, no. But yeah, so I've been doing this YouTube thing for a long time as Deconverted Man, and even longer as other characters. So I've been pretty much on YouTube since it started, and I've encountered different people throughout that time, and I've responded to this, that, and the other thing, and I've been called every word under the sun that can be insulting or pleasant. So I've been around the block, if you will. When it comes to the God thing, that's my primary focus to some degree, because I enjoy informal logic, and for whatever reason, the topic of God seems to produce what's called logical fallacies. And these are sort of rules in logic that when they're produced, you can know the argument is flawed. And all that really means is that the conclusion of the argument is one you have to set aside. Now, the conclusion could be true or it could be false. You don't know because the argument's bad. So an example would be like, my light is either on or off. If lobsters exist, my light's off. Therefore, my light is off. Well, the argument might sound good on its own, but in reality, my light's on. And the argument, if you look at it closely, you're like, wait a minute, is there really some connection between lobsters and lights that doesn't seem true. So there's some problems there. And so because of those problems, I'm going to set the conclusion to the side. So in doing that with various arguments that religious people have over time, I've noticed fallacies and I've counted them up and said what they are. And I've also encountered people like you that don't do an argument, but say, here are my reasons that I believe. And some reasons are valid, logically speaking, and some not so much. Like I understand, I'm religious because that's how I grew up. Okay, is that a good reason to be religious? Well, it's a reason. I'm not going to, there's no way to weigh that really. But is that a way to know if it's true or not? That's a different question. So, and I'm very interested in getting to the truth. So, if growing up in, any given religion, that doesn't guarantee that religion's going to be true. So, that's not a metric of deciding if it's true or not. So so then the reasons that you believe in anything, whether it's God or, if the world is an obloid spheroid or whatever, need to be good reasons. And so my attempts here will be to give you good or better reasoning, not to dismantle God belief or anything like that. Not that I could if I wanted to, I don't think. But just to get you to have better reasoning. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair because you could argue my reasonings, especially in the first video, were maybe a bit weak, but I wasn't obviously expecting to have a response video made on that video. I was kind of just trying to share why I personally believe in God. I wasn't even trying to persuade anyone to believe in God. I was just kind of trying to put my viewpoint out there on the internet. But what I would say about the argument of religion and the debate of it is that, unfortunately, there's no way to settle the argument. You can't prove or disprove the argument. So although you can try and use logic in every way possible to prove God's existence or disprove it, right? I don't think that you can make God into a maths equation, right? You can't kind of say that you can't kind of say that God isn't real because of X, Y, and Z, because we can't tell if God's real until we die, and even then we don't know, right? But yeah, we just have no idea. It's like you can't, while we're on the earth, we cannot disprove or prove the argument. So the argument is kind of it's an important one to have because it dictates the beliefs you follow. But I think you can't always apply logic to it 100% of the time because religion, at the end of the day, is based around faith. That's kind of my viewpoint of it. If you can't always, with especially with things like religion, always use logic. It doesn't always work.
Yeah. Now this is, religion is a very broad term because there's many religions out there and cults and things like this. So it's probably better to target one or maybe two religions rather than saying religion, because that's kind of too broad of a term. So is it possible to focus in on your religion, or do you have some reason to keep it more open?
Yeah, I do actually. So I talked a bit about this in the last video. I think that religion is an interesting thing as a whole, right? There's so many different religions. I think belief in God is one thing, and then choosing a religion is obviously another thing, right? And I think that you shouldn't choose a religion based off what other people think. So I didn't specify in the first video what religion I follow, which I'm a Christian, right? Although I'm not sure if I want to be a Christian or a Catholic. I don't know if I want to follow the Protestant or Catholic version of Christianity, right? But anyway, that's besides the point. I don't think that you should like try and promote and force someone to believe your religion, right? So I'm not going to go and say I'm a Catholic and like just say throughout the whole video I'm a Catholic. I'm just going to say I believe in God, and I think you should go away and do your research and look to see what religion you believe is going to fit your beliefs the best. So if you go and look at, let's say, 5 religions that are quite popular, because you like to use the analogy of a lobster, right? If I were to analyze your lobster religion, there are a number of reasons why I wouldn't follow it. And so I think you should do that with a lot of different religions until you land on one that you think fits what is likely to have happened, that has good evidence and that has good parameters and good teachings and good things that you align with, right? So I don't like to say one religion, which is my religion. I like to keep it quite broad by saying religion. But in that second video, I did mention that you need to go away and do your own research. You need to read different different holy books. You need to listen to atheists. You need to listen to people who have different faiths to what you've been brought up, to what you've been brought up with. And yeah, you've just got to try and experiment for yourself a bit, because if I just said Christianity, I think I'd be limiting people watching my content.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it, I think, is to say, to explore and research. And there's classes on comparative religious studies that one could take, some online free courses that you can find for that. There's videos that do that as well. There's plenty to read on that matter, as well as your own personal exploration. I'm all for that 100%. There's certainly the idea of figuring out what you think God is first, and then finding where religion conforms to that is an interesting strategy, because one might use it the other way around. They might say, what religion do I think is, do I like? And then I'm going to formulate my opinions of God based on that religion. That's another way to do it. So I think that, figuring out what you think God is, if it is a thing at all, might be a better way to go about it than picking a religion that you seem to fit into and then letting them tell you what God is. I think that it's better to use your own reasoning, but also check in with others, see what other people have to say. So I like that approach. I think there's things we need to refine about it. We need to be careful that we recognize the negative things about any religion before joining it. So there are many examples I could point to. Comes to mind, it's either Mormonism or Jehovah's Witnesses, and I can't remember which one does it, but one of the two says, we don't believe in blood transfusion. Well, to me, that's ridiculous. That might never be a problem for you, but it might be, who knows? So I wouldn't join that religion just because of that flaw. I'm not going to be part of a group that does something that I don't agree with. Even if my version of God matched with theirs, I'd be like, well, something is wrong here because their value doesn't align with my value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that 100% makes sense. It sounds like kind of similar to what I'm saying, where you said that you wouldn't choose that religion or promote that religion because of that blood transfusion thing, right? And I would come at it a very similar way. I'd be like, I don't like that teaching and that teaching about that religion. Although potentially I like other stuff about the religion, because of that, I'm not going to follow the religion. And so I think what you're saying is kind of similar to what I'm saying. And I also wouldn't promote a religion that I didn't agree with. So I said that I'm a Christian. If I didn't think Christianity was good, I wouldn't go and say that I'm a Christian, or I wouldn't obviously follow the religion in the first place. So I just think you need to be careful what religion you follow. You need to do a lot of research, and you need to be very reflective, right? Just because you chose the religion once doesn't mean you have to stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can learn and explore. The idea that you hold, you must be willing to question that. And if you find that you're unable or unwilling to, then it's very dangerous, very, very risky to have any idea that is unquestionable in your brain, in my view. Because that's the thing that's going to get you. Maybe it's a good idea, but you got to be able to question it, and so even, people tend to put God very up high, and I'm like, no, God is, in my mind, I question, if you really want to raise it, fine, then question it even more, because it's like something I value, whatever that is, like logic. I really love logic, so I'm going to question the bleep out of logic and make sure I'm getting it right. And I don't get it right every time, and I go, okay, well, that happens. I suck. But does the system still work? Yeah, it looks like the system's still working. It's me that had the problem, but I made sure, and so that process is something I think that we all need to engage in. When it comes to, you did say one thing I do often disagree with, and this is probably a language problem to some degree, but it's that, this choosing of belief thing. And we might be talking past each other on that. So I want to see what your perspective is, what you mean that if you say you can choose what you believe. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that was interesting because I was coming at it from a point of view as I'm trying to share my perspective of God, right? So I want anyone who's watching my content to think of it from an open mind. And I also don't want them to feel any pressure to follow any religion. So me and you follow completely different beliefs, right? But I wouldn't want anyone who didn't believe what I believe to start following that religion or to start believing in God if they didn't actually genuinely believe it. If I wanted everyone to believe in God, then the best way I could go about that would be by forcing people. But I don't think that's the right way to go about it, because you can't have a genuine belief in God and a connection with God if you don't actually believe in him. So I kind of said that because I wanted to tell my viewers, okay, you can watch this video and it's just me giving my opinion. And at the end of it, hopefully you learned something. But, if you don't align with everything I said, that's completely fine. Religion is a choice because it's an undefinitive argument. It's like 1 + 1 is 2, right? That's definitive. But when it comes to religion, we don't know if there's a God. Even I'm admitting, I admit that we obviously don't know there's a God on this earth. As human beings, we have no idea. So you can't go about it and force people to believe something. I wanted to tell my viewers, believe whatever you think is best.
I think, yeah, that I understand that better, because usually I take it to mean like, that you could, it's not as if we could say, oh, believe I'm a lobster. Maybe you could decide to do that, but I don't know. I don't know if your brain is actually able to do that. Maybe if you tried hard enough for long enough, you could break your brain and be like, "Did you heard of it as a lobster? How is a lobster typing on the internet? What's going on?" I don't know, but I wouldn't advise somebody to try to just, you can't just say, "Well, today I'm going to be an atheist and not believe in God, and then tomorrow I'm going to believe in God again." It's not that simple. It's going to take time to change your ideas about anything, let alone something that is like a God idea, which is, in your brain is probably a very important idea. Which obviously God, whether it exists or not, is still existing as an idea in our heads. It's definitely that for sure. If it's more than that, now that's the question, and that's what you and I, and, well, who knows, everyone, I don't know, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people want to figure that out. And there's an approach to take that's called epistemology, of how do we figure out, should I believe in this in the first place? And so what is our epistemology in regards to anything else that we do in life? How am I going to decide what car to buy? What system am I going to use to do that? And what does that system look like? Can I apply that system across the board, and will it always succeed in getting me, if not just a car, but I could apply it to getting a place to rent, or paying for this or that or whatever. And if it's a good process, then it will work every time, or at least the majority of time. Again, human error is going to be a factor. But if I have a bad epistemology, if I have a bad way to decide things, then I'm, who knows what my outcome's going to be. If I close my eyes and I throw a dart, I might hit a dartboard. But then again, there might not even be a dartboard if I have my eyes closed. How will I know? So the fact that I could randomly hit something with the dart, doesn't mean that it's a good method to use. So I need to use a better method. Does that sound right to you?
So I get where you're coming from, but I think where we're kind of misunderstanding each other is, I'm not saying to go and believe whatever you want to believe, but without reason, right? I'm saying to go away and do your own research and believe whatever you want to believe based on logic and based off what you think is the best course of action. So if you go away and you don't like what I've said and you think God's not real, then go with that belief and keep questioning it and keep developing it. but don't feel like that's the wrong belief, because it's not a wrong belief, because there is no wrong belief when you don't know a definitive answer. But belief you're a lobster, as I've said in the last video, unfortunately doesn't quite make sense. So if I were to look at belief you're a lobster from a logical argument, that it doesn't make sense. But if I were to look at Christianity from a logical argument, there's a lot of arguments to say that it does make sense.
Yeah, certainly we're lacking on arguments for me being a lobster, but we do have arguments for any various different religions. And so how do you know, you personally, how do you know if an argument is a good or bad argument? So there's a missing element there. And that missing element, I think, is understanding informal logic, which is one system of looking at argumentation. Another layer is formal logic. And if you don't understand these systems, then it's unlikely that you're going to be able to deduce if an argument is good or bad. Does that sound reasonable?
I suppose, but like, I think when you're talking about religion, it's very different to other arguments. If we're having an argument about something we have full control over and that we have full knowledge of, right? So if we're arguing about maths or the gym or something like that, we have complete understanding of everything on that, because it's something on earth. But when you're talking about religion, unfortunately, a big aspect of religion is faith, whether you like that or not. And so you can't always nitpick every single part of religion and follow it. And if you feel like you have to, then maybe religion isn't for you. I understand that you obviously should not follow religion just blindly and because it's good, it sounds good. But I think there's always going to be a small part of religion and belief in God, even if it's a small part at some point, that is just, it's going to be difficult. And that is part of faith, and that's part of religion. And if you can't have any faith at all and everything has to be spelled out for you with logic, I'm not saying that's the wrong way to think, because maybe that's the more intelligent way to think, and maybe God's not real, maybe you're right. But maybe it's not the right way to go about thinking about this sort of thing, where we don't know how the world was created. We know we're here on this earth, and we don't know what happens when we die. So we don't have all the evidence and all the facts, and whatever you believe, you are going to have to come at it from a point of trust and of like not knowing, right? So let's say you believe the Big Bang created the world. Well, we don't have video evidence. We don't have a video of the Big Bang creating the world. We didn't see the Big Bang create the world, but we're using what facts we have to determine that the Big Bang created the world, if the Big Bang is what you believe. But if you believe God created the world, again, the element of trust is going to have to come into it, and you're going to have to trust that God did create the world. And that's just kind of how every single argument about how the world was created and religion is going to go.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack there. The scientific methodology is extraordinarily robust, and it is one that we have all this technology around us that we just kind of take it for granted just about. I mean, we carry computers with us. I mean, it's amazing. And technology is accelerating faster with AI, and goodness knows if we'll have robot overlords controlling everything or not. I don't know. I welcome them. Whatever. I have no control over it. And whatever technology does or doesn't do in the future, goodness knows, we're gonna race to keep up with it. But science and the methodology of science has enabled us to understand our world. And part of that has been observations of the cosmos, which has led us to what's called Big Bang cosmology, although that's one of many possible cosmologies. It's not the only theory available. It's one of many. It is the most supported theory so far. But if our observations change, if we see something different that indicates something else, then that's going to be something that some scientist is going to have to put into peer review, and it's going to have to be examined, and there's a lot of math involved, or there's so many things involved, there's so much evidence there that leads to the conclusion that it is not functionally the same as religion. If you were to apply the scientific method to any religion, it would end very quickly. You would run out of data rather quickly, because you're starting to deal with abstract ideas that aren't within our realm of testability. You can't test spirit, soul. You can't test afterlife. You can't test God. You can't test angels, demons, devils. You can't test these things. You can't investigate them, because there's no instrument, there's no microscope or telescope or whatever that you can see the thing with. So science quickly doesn't do anything with religion. It fizzles out. So the methodology of religion is reliant on what you said, faith. And it probably is reliant way more on faith than you might think. And the scant amount of evidences there might be for any given religion, when you explore it further, and I hope that you do, should surprise you. Now, that might not negate your faith, might make it stronger, might make it weaker, I don't know. But I want to make sure that you understand there is a big difference between any religion and the scientific method. Do you have any reason to object to anything that I've said there?
I agree that obviously science is anything we're testing with science on the earth is going to be a lot more valid than anything we are testing outside of like our understanding, which is going to be the afterlife and how the world was created, right? So obviously that it's very unfair to compare the two things, because you're comparing kind of science which can explain away absolutely everything on this earth pretty much. If you wanted to explain why the body works, that's going to be science. But if and we've got the human body to do that. But if you want to explain how the world was created, it's a very different argument. And so given that it's a very hard argument to prove or disprove, what would you then say is the best course of action to do about that? Because I think the best course of action is to have faith and go with whatever the biggest evidence is. And I believe that's God. I believe it's likely that sentient life created sentient life. And so what would you say it's better to then think that there's no point in me having faith in what I believe is the most logical argument? Or would you then say that you need to trust in the science of it?
There's a lot of questions there to unpack. So I'll start with the not knowing bit. We don't know X, whatever that is. Now, you think it's the world. I think that science understands how the Earth and other planets and the sun and the solar system formed. I think that we understand that. We, meaning science. I read the science and I barely understand it, to be honest. I'm not, I go, okay, yeah, they said words. All right. There's a point where I just go, okay, I got to learn more to understand that stuff, and you're younger, so it will make more sense to you than me. I'm old and my brain's, old. So, you're young and you'll be able to understand that stuff faster. And man, that's an exciting journey to be able to learn and get all that knowledge in there, because you never know what will be useful to you in the future. And it's amazing that we can learn stuff. And I really encourage you to learn as much as you can and be just hungry for that knowledge. I'm excited about science and knowledge and the exploration of the divine, of faith. I think that that's interesting on its own merits, but the two are different ways of doing things. Even if it was the case that we did not know through science or whatever how the world came to be, that doesn't mean that the best answer is therefore anything else. Because what this is one of those logical fallacies I mentioned. It's called appeal to ignorance. I don't know whatever, therefore the answer must be that. So, for an example, my door is covered with a sheet right now because it's really cold. But if my door suddenly opened on its own, I would get scared, first of all. Secondly, I'd go and see if somebody opened it, because that's my first instinct. Someone opened my door. I look around and no one's near. Okay, well, maybe an animal. No, there's no animal. Maybe the lock is faulty. Maybe this, maybe that. But I exhaust all my possibilities in my brain and I go, well, I don't know how it happened. Wait, it's got to be a ghost. A ghost opened my door. Is that a reasonable conclusion to draw from my lack of knowledge regarding the situation?
No, no, it's not. But what I would say about that is that it's a very different thing with God, right? If you have evidence and likelihood that something's true, and you believe it's likely that something's true based off the probability of it. For example, if you know a lot about something to where you can almost assume it's true, but you can't 100% prove it's true, does that then mean that you should believe nothing? Or does that then mean that you should go, okay, I'm going to have faith in this thing that I think is very likely to be true, but I can't prove. And I'm going to go and follow that because I think it's the likeliest outcome. It's probability. And you can't, in my opinion, we live on an imperfect earth. We can't prove everything. We can't have everything in a fair test. Not everything can be explained with logic. So sometimes you're going to have to use that little bit of faith on top of the evidence, on top of the evidence that you've researched and followed and all that sort of thing and questioned a lot as well.
Okay, so yeah, we kind of got a little bit off track because I was explaining the appeal to ignorance. Okay, so you understand that even if it's the case that we don't know how the Earth formed, for example, because that was your statement, that doesn't mean that any answer we provide is the correct answer. We don't know. That's it. That's where we end at, and that it can stay there. There's no reason we need to add anything to that. It's just, I don't know. Okay, well, that's cool. Maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll figure it out. I don't know. But just, we live with the I don't know. We live with that non statement about it. And we have to get used to that. And that's at least honest to say, well, I don't know how it happened. And I don't need to make any decision because the data is lacking, because my knowledge is lacking. I can live with I don't know.
But this is where me and you have kind of different mindsets about it. I think that God tells us we have to have faith in him, and if we don't have faith in him, then we're not going to, right? That's how it works, unfortunately. So you can't just, I think that you said, didn't you say that we can, you said about the ignorance thing, right? If you don't know something, then how are you gonna, you can just leave it. You don't have to say there's a specific answer. My opinion is, if you do know a lot about something, but then there's that little bit left, then yes, you should have faith in it because it's the most likely outcome. That's why I was talking about that after you said about the ignorance thing, right? So I think this is where an atheist and someone who believes has different mindsets. And if you can't have any faith, that's fine. And, you should continue to have your beliefs and it might be the right belief. But I think personally as a believer that I can have faith in something if I have enough evidence that it's likely to be true.
Well, certainly, if you have evidence of something, I'm not going to quibble over the role of faith or what the definition there is. I understand. I think what you're saying. That we have overwhelming evidence for something, but we don't really. Maybe like what I was saying with the origin of the Earth, we have tons of science that explains how all that worked. It's a bunch of dust that, because gravity came closer together, and then boom, there's a star, and then now we've got a sun, and then more dust, and now that's a planet. And okay, yeah, now I don't understand everything there is, so you might call that faith to believe that little extra. I don't know that I would call it that, but I'm not going to quibble over it. Fine. So we have that. But what we've got to be careful of is saying, well, I don't know, therefore X. I don't know what happens after we die, therefore there has to be a God. Well, wait a minute. We don't know what happens after we die, therefore we don't know what happens after we die. Leave it there. So that makes a better argumentation, see? And that's my only point. It's not the argument must be a good argument in order for somebody to agree with the argument. Otherwise, they're going to see the fallacy that you've created and say, well, your argument sucks. Go fix your argument. And until you have a good argument. Now, you can say, well, but for this scenario, logic doesn't work. Well, that's an interesting idea, but I don't know how you would set about proving that, since you now don't have access to logic. Now it's really in the realm of the weird there. You have to have some way to, maybe you're not trying to prove it, and that's fine too. I think that it's okay to say, I have faith in whatever. I don't care. Okay, cool, whatever. Do I have proof of that's a different claim, right? Because now you have to prove it. Here, you had reasons for, and I said, well, we need to work on those reasons because they need better structure to them. And I think that eventually you'll get better reasons as time goes on, or you might find out that there aren't any good reasons. I don't know. That's your journey to take, not mine. So I don't know if that answered every part of your question, but I hope that covered enough of it.
Okay, so I think we kind of wrapped that up a little bit.
Yeah.
So if we were to go into a new kind of topic, if we were to go into a new kind of topic, this is kind of slightly unrelated to belief in God, but it kind of, I'm going to link it to it a bit. So we disagreed a bit about pride, right? If you have done something, should you be the one who gets? And I'm interested to hear your point of view again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's nothing wrong with being prideful. Maybe the way that you do it might irritate people, I suppose. And that's sort of a social thing. But I don't see any problem personally with taking pride in work that you've done. You accomplished something. You learned something. You made these videos. You put your ideas out. That's something to be proud of. I'm proud of you on behalf of you, if you will. I'm proud that you're brave enough, willing enough to have this conversation with somebody much older than you. I'm proud that you're eloquent in what you say, and that many things that you're saying are to me reflections of me when I was believing in things, but I didn't have the access to the internet that you have. So you're in a different place than I was back when I was your age, when you didn't exist. What an interesting idea that is, right? When I was your age, you didn't even exist yet. Or maybe pieces of you did. I don't know. There we go. But, so I think that there's nothing wrong with pride. People might get pissed off if you're too prideful, or that guy's full of himself, and that's sort of a, who knows how that works or whatever. But, I don't see anything wrong with just saying, I did a good job. I'm very proud of myself. And I can thank me. And I don't need to thank. If there's other people to thank, great. Yeah, thank them. If you want to thank a God, okay, I can't, I don't see a reason to do that per se. You might, and that, but there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, you're lagging a little bit.
Okay, sorry.
A little bit. It's all good. Yeah, I think I got the gist of what you're saying, right? So you believe that if you've done something, then you should be proud of that because you've gone and done the hard work to achieve that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were kind of saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So my viewpoint of it as a Christian and as a believer in God is that most of the glory should go to God, because I believe God put us on this earth. I believe that God put you in the position to be able to do that. And I believe that God helped you on your journey. And obviously we believe very different things about that, right? But obviously, even if, this is why I like to apply arguments to even if God wasn't real, being proud in this scenario isn't always the best thing. There's a quote, pride comes before the fall. When you're proud, you tend to become more arrogant, more complacent. And so if you're going to be looking at it from the most logical perspective, being proud isn't even the best answer anyway. And also, if you were to look at it from a perspective of being fair to everybody who was involved and giving credit, even if you don't want to give any credit to God, you've still got to give credit to your trainers. You've got to give credit to the fact you were born in that time and you had the facilities to do whatever you did, right? You still got to give credit to the fact that you were on that journey and that everything aligned to give you what you've done, right? So I still think that giving yourself more than maybe a very small fraction of the pride for the what outcomes you got, I don't think that it's a good idea. But we definitely.
Yeah, everything you don't want too much extreme of anything, and so and you're gonna, that saying, pride comes before a fall, that's kind of a warning, like not to do anything in excess, and so yes, be proud you did the work, but don't think that you're now able to always do the work. Remember the hard work that you had to put into to get this result. But so there's, you have to weigh in things, and it's always this balancing act. So those are good points. And again, as far as thanking God, if by God we mean all the things that helped us to get here, sure. I guess it's a saving, it saves time to say thank God instead of saying thanks to my mom, my dad, my ancestors, the land I live in, the time. It's a lot of things to thank. And me, I did this stuff. But it just depends on what you want to thank, I suppose, and that you're gonna leave somebody out, and it's a difficult thing to navigate. But I don't see. In and of itself, I think that you can be proud of your achievements, and I just wanted to encourage that you are able to have some pride in yourself to whatever limit you think is appropriate to have.
Yeah. Also,
okay.
Sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about why you deconverted, because it's incredible that you had 20 years of faith and then you deconverted. A lot of people by that point, they wouldn't even care if the evidence, if the glaring evidence was that God wasn't real, because they've invested so much into religion that they they feel like they have to keep being religious. But you obviously went, no, I'm not going to be religious anymore, and in fact you turned that into kind of telling other people why you weren't religious anymore. So was it like a big thing that made you stop being religious, or was it like over time?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. Many factors were involved. The glib answer that's an easy out for me is it's in my book, Caught Between an Infinite Hope and a Finite Despair, that's on Amazon for $18. If you want a free copy because you can't afford it, let me know an email. I'll send you one. I'll send you a text version at any rate. A physical copy I can't provide you with. I don't get the $18. I get way less than that because it's published on demand. But that would be the easy answer. I also do have a video somewhere of my deconversion. The short and long version is I believed from the age of 8 to 36 or 32. I can't remember now offhand. But then I got into researching because I was doing a channel called Infinite Hope, and I was saying why I believe, and I was talking to people, and people kept asking me all these questions, and I wanted to prove that there was a God, and so I thought about trying to do that, and found it to be not possible, and I found reasons to not believe what I believed, and I didn't want to think that was true. I turned to apologetics, but I also learned informal logic, because I said, well, these arguments sound good, but how do I know they are good? So I need to find out. And I saw that the arguments weren't good after learning logic. And so I had at that point pure faith that it was between me and God at that point. And if there is a God, it didn't deliver. And a similar parallel story to that, I would say, that is worth a read is let's see, I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
You mind if I just had one?
Yeah, go ahead while I try to.
Sorry.
And now we'll pause for these messages where Deconverted Man tries to remember who wrote that essay. Salvation, Langston Hughes. There we are. Man, I'm awesome. Yes, I remembered. Yes, I'm so cool. Yay, I remembered the thing. Yes, and yay, me. I'm amazing because I remembered the thing. It's only me to thank. Thank you to no one but me. Screw everyone but me. I'm awesome. Yeah. What else can I say while he's gone? Porcupine. Yeah, that makes sense. Nobody say porcupine. Quiet. He's coming back. Yeah, hey, how's it going? I didn't talk about porcupines while you were gone. Don't worry about it. So I was saying Langston Hughes wrote this essay called Salvation, and it's well worth a read. I put the link in chat. I'll also put it in the private chat. I'll email you a link to it. I have some. His thing is different than mine, but there's parallels there that are worth. It's really worth reading that essay, and rereading it and thinking about it, because it kind of encapsulates the final straw for me in a way that, when it was just pure faith and God didn't deliver, so to speak, there was nothing left to go on. I didn't have empirical evidence. I didn't have any repeatable tests. I didn't have any valid and sound argument. God could have stepped in, but didn't. And so what do you have at that point? You don't have anything. And that was a powerful moment. And I really do hope you never encounter it, because it hurt. It really did. So, but it might not hurt for you. I don't know. It's your journey. I don't know where your journey takes you. I think these things are interesting, and I think that you're on an interesting journey, and I hope that you continue to do it. And I encourage you to learn informal logic, do a course on religious comparative studies if they have that available, and learn as much as you can. You don't know what information will or won't be useful to you, but keep that going. Now I'm going to turn to Shat, and I told you, Shat, to have questions for him, so you better have had it. Remember I said we're going to ignore Shat? Yeah, we did that. Okay, hey, questions for Harvey. Ask all the questions. Okay, Harvey, go ahead and say stuff while I tell Shat to give me questions. Give me questions.
Okay. What I'd say about what you just said is that you said there's no logic behind faith, or like there's very, very limited logic.
Well,
a person who made me think. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Did you have a question?
No. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, a person who made me change my opinion that it was very limited knowledge was Cliff Connectley. He honestly made religion seem so logical and so perfect that it made me almost believe a lot more. And obviously you would say that that's trying to make evidence fit the facts, but I would say that the way Cliff does it, he tries to make the whatever way that it makes sense. He makes the evidence fit the story, rather than the story fit the evidence. Whatever. But yeah, he's really good. He helped me a lot, and I would say he really, like, the way he describes religion and makes it seem so, makes everything so logical. That really helped me. And also, I'd like to after the questions, you said that if there is a God, and you said this in your video as well, in your stream, you said if there is a God, he hasn't done anything good, or like you said, kind of, he isn't a good God almost. So yeah, I'd like to discuss that if we have time.
Oh yeah, I have all the time. I usually wrap up in about an hour or so. We're getting close to that, so I tried to shift the questions to chat so that they can, engage with you. I mean, that might be a whole nother discussion on I don't. The less I say about Cliff, the better. He might want to. I could say some things, but I won't. because I want to attack the arguments and not the person. So on his arguments, I didn't, I don't know of any valid and sound. I know of valid arguments for God, but not sound arguments. So soundness means all the premises are true. And in my analysis of all the arguments I have come across, I haven't found any that are sound. I haven't seen them all because I can't make that claim. I don't know, but the ones I have looked at have failed the logical test. And there's many reasons for that. But, that's a matter of learning informal logic to really understand those things so that you can understand if an argument is valid and sound or not. Otherwise, you're going to hear something. It's going to sound good, but it might not be, logically speaking. And so, come on, ask questions. Let's see. Let's see. I will find some questions. No, Harvey. I don't think Harvey said that. Okay, somebody. Okay, so James Apperson. Somebody, never heard of this guy before. I don't think he said this, but just to resolve his question, he says, wait, I missed it. What did Harvey say was nearly perfect? Oh, I read that wrong. Okay, so.
What did I say? Oh, I said, it's going to be hard to remember. I'll have to watch it back.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Nearly perfect.
It does ring a bell, but
I don't know. Okay, not Cliff. Okay, yeah. Flat Earth false and evolution true? Okay, so this is kind of a question on what your position is on the age of the Earth, age of the universe, the Earth's shape, and things of that nature. Where do you land on any of that?
With the shape of the Earth, I think there's 100% evidence that the Earth is round. So if you show me 100% evidence, there's no way I can go no because X, Y, Z. It's like we know the Earth is round, right? With the age of the Earth, that's slightly different because you have to kind of trust in science and everything. But I think that science can go hand in hand with religion, and I'm kind of deciding about whether I'm a literalist Christian who believes that the world was made in 7 days and everything, or if I'm kind of in between, or if I believe that science is the explanation for the world and that God created that, or if I don't believe in God. But I think at the moment I definitely believe in God.
Yeah, well, I would of course want to steer you towards that since science discovers reality as we understand it, that whatever God is, in order for God to exist, it has to align with our discovery of reality. So if we say that God made stuff in 7 days, but that's not our observations, don't align with that, then that version of God can't possibly be true. So therefore, it must be a different version of God. So the God that aligns with reality would be the only God that could hope to exist. Okay, this is a silly question. We're not going to answer that question, but we're going to put it up on screen anyways, just so I can say we're not going to answer that question. I don't know what the hell this question has to do with anything. Okay. Cliff, he's referring to Cliff Knucky. Here, let me put the name in the chat so people know. I don't know how you say his name. This guy right here.
Cliff Connectley. It's like Connectley, but with a K.
This guy. Right?
I don't know. My screen not properly, but yeah.
Yeah, it might not be on your screen, but this guy.
He's a very popular figure in religion. He's like massive.
Yeah, that dude. All right, let's see. Okay, I don't know that you can answer this question, but we'll ask it anyways. We have a lot of Bible stories in Mesopotamia and Egypt. How close to source are those? That might have not been to you, but do you have any idea on that one?
I mean, if you've got, have you got any answer to that?
Not offhand. I'd have to look that one up, so I don't know. But I'm just I'm going over anything that has a question mark in it. What other gods have you read about? That's a better question.
Yeah, I'm not claiming to have any knowledge of stuff like that. I'm not claiming to know. As I said in my video, I'm not claiming to have like scratched the surface of religion at all. I'm just claiming to have. I just want to share the reasons I believe in God personally, right? And I'm going to keep researching, and maybe in 10 years' time, I'll be able to answer that question for you. But yeah.
I don't like that question. I don't think I'm going to put that question on here. I don't like the way it's phrased. So I'm not going to. C19 asked or what was it? No, pseudo history asked a question that I don't like. If you read through chat later, you'll see probably what I'm talking about. Okay. This is a very interesting, complicated question. I think I'd rephrase this. He says, "What a nerdy rodent says, why is pantheism illogical?" I'd rephrase it to say, "Is pantheism illogical?" But in any case, do you want to take a swing at that?
Again, I don't know what. If you could elaborate on what the pantheism is, then sure.
More than one god.
Oh, do I think that having more than one god is illogical? It doesn't align with my faith, so I personally do. But if it aligns with a faith that you like and you think is good, then potentially it's logical for you. I haven't again looked into the arguments for and against that too well, but I like the idea of the Trinity, and I like the idea of having one God, and I think that is the most plausible thing from what I've seen. But I don't know. It's up to you. You should go do your own research, and I'm sure you have. But yeah.
James says he can't think of anything impressive about biblical context. We'll simplify this question, but what good examples may I have overlooked? So I think a rephrase of this question might be off the top of your head. Obviously, what biblical things, stories, what have you, do you think are really good that you want to share with James or anyone else for that matter?
So when you say good, do you mean positive, or do you mean
whatever you think good? What things would you want to share with us pesky skeptics? What whatever comes to mind. Maybe nothing comes to mind right now, and that's okay. But try to.
I would say that in the Bible, the most important thing is always going to be the resurrection, right? Because Jesus, God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, so that whoever believes in Him shall not perish but experience eternal life in heaven, right? So Jesus is God in human form. God humbles Himself down into human form and becomes Jesus, and Jesus then allows humans to nail Him to the cross despite being so perfect, and He allows humans to do that to Him despite us being so imperfect. So when Jesus came down, not only are we washed away of our sins, and not only can we experience eternal life, but also it's like God loved us so much that despite us being so imperfect and him not, He could just wipe us out, but instead He decided that He was going to give us a second chance of redemption. That's what I believe to be the most important story in the Bible, but I think you can learn a lot from so many different Bible teachings.
They wanted to know your age. I believe you've said 14, but I don't 15, remember. 15. You're 15 now? Okay. So yeah, I'm only slightly older. Let's see. I can, but I won't. Can we get a shout out to Megan Webb? No. Screw Megan Webb. I don't know who that is. Sorry. Let's see. They're having fun
some
now.
Of my friends might have influenced.
Oh, okay. They might be. I'm sorry, Megan Webb. Unscrew you, Megan Webb. All power to Megan Webb. I don't know who this is. Wait, Megan Webb is the most awesome person in the entire universe. Are you happy now? Are you? No. What? What? Okay. how a plotting compass can be used to investigate the magnetic field around a magnet. This must be one of your friends or something, I think. Yeah, I
don't think friends are that to come up with that. To be fair,
I don't know what that has to do with. Yeah, maybe later he'll do it as a bonus homework for you if you pay him enough. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting real questions again. We had a little bit of fun. People in chat are insane. CG19. Why would a perfect creator create imperfect creations? Ooh, interesting.
Why would a perfect creator create imperfect creations? Well, I would say that the Lord created us perfectly, right? If you look at Adam and Eve and the story of that, we would live thousands of years or hundreds of years. We had everything we needed, and all we had to do was not commit this one sin, right? But because us as humans, God gave us free will. Because without free will, nothing actually matters. If I love someone, but it's not out of free will, then it's not true love. It's the same with everything else, and that's why God gives us free will to choose to reject him or choose to embrace him. So when we decided to misuse that free will, yes, this world became imperfect and we became imperfect sinners and we carried that sin. But God still loved us so much that he decided to send his only son. And that is where Jesus comes into it. And you need to start understanding that Jesus died for your sins. And even though this world is imperfect, he didn't care. He still sent Jesus down, and Jesus is God in human form. And that's what I believe.
Oh, I was muted. There might be some problems, internet problems here or something.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Nerdy wanted, I guess, more clarification on this. I don't know if we're going to be able to answer this, but we'll, it. So, was there an imperfection in the perfect creation? In other words, like how is it that something, yeah,
out because a bit of a long explanation of that, but I can redo it. I'll redo it for you. So God created us. I believe God created the world perfectly. Obviously, it wasn't as perfect as heaven because you move on to heaven after you die. But we would live for hundreds of years. We had everything we needed, and all we had to do was not commit this original sin, right? But we had free will because God gave us free will. God gave us free will. If you don't have free will, then everything is meaningless, in my opinion. If you love someone because you are forced to, it's not love, really, is it? But if you have free will to love someone and you still do it, that is meaningful, right? So when God created us, so when we committed that sin, God gave us and created us with free will to choose to embrace him or reject him. And when we decided to commit sin and go against God, the world became imperfect and we started living less long, and we carried that original sin with us. And this is why Jesus is so important in Christianity. I believe that Jesus then came down as God in human form, and despite being so powerful that he could have wiped out in the entirety of the universe and started again, he decided that he was going to go and come down and allow humans to nail him to the cross. Even though he's so much more powerful than us and he's perfect, he allowed us to nail him to the cross. And that's why it's so important. And so God kind of is showing that he still loves us despite all this imperfection. And so that's kind of answers your question. I think he did, hopefully anyway. I think he created the world perfect, but we abused our free will. Oh, is it gone? Is it gone again?
Yeah, no, I did it again to myself. I'm stupid. I hit the mute because I needed to cough, and then I forgot that I was muted. I'm brilliant. It's amazing.
Okay.
One of these days I'll figure out. Now, the same question. I guess that this is one that really is, it might be its own thing, and maybe you and James will have a talk on his channel at some point if you guys want to set that up and whatever. But I think you already have said the answer twice now, so I don't think it's fair to ask the same question a third time. I don't know that we're going to get the sort of clarification that we might want for this question, to be fair to you. And that's not a you problem. Maybe. That might be an us problem.
Maybe you short or something. Just clarify it.
So, and I think that people are being more weird now in chat than asking serious questions. So I think that's probably a good time to do a wrap up on this. Harvey, thank you for taking your time and energy to do this, and for being so open and honest with everyone, and for putting your ideas to the test. There's a great amount of courage there. Maybe you don't see it that way because you grew up with technology. I don't know, because I didn't. So it's it's different. Back in my day, computers were made out of oranges, and we had to walk up school 5 miles in the snow to get to them naked, and it was really tough, and we were whipped every day. You don't understand. We had 3x5 things that were called floppy disks, and we used them to play music on, and we carried this thing called a CD player that you put audio tapes in, and the audio tapes you'd need a pencil to rewind them, and and then there was this thing called 8-tracks. And we don't know why they were called that. It was weird. And we drove upside down. And all of that's true. Don't look into it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
All right.
I know you've got the bigger platform than me, so you've given me, hopefully, you've given me an opportunity to speak to more people. So I appreciate that. And
and you also, now we didn't touch on it at all, but you also kind of do fitness stuff, I guess. So that's great, because I'm really out of shape. So how do I walk anymore? Like that would be a video. I just need to get out there and walk, and staying in shape, that's a good thing, and so I'm all for that. Thank you, Harvey. Yeah. Thank you, everybody in chat. If you have more questions, comments, etc., put them on the video once it's a video. That helps me, helps Harvey, helps everybody, and makes YouTube happy. And let's make YouTube happy with our comments. Make sure to put your comment in WordPad or Notepad and save it first before posting it, because YouTube eats comments. Because, I don't know, it just does! All right, that's all for now, everybody. Until next time, be skeptical, and after next time, stay skeptical, but I'm going to leave the last word to Harvey. Harvey, say whatever you want.
Goodbye, everyone. See you in the next one.